no strings on you, no strings on me. I was a cannonball and you were the sea. When I crashed into your blue dream, we were free. Time takes no prisoners, you'll see. When you're 17, the thought of a spark could start a fire. Tube top and faded jeans, how we forget how we desire. We were 17, 17. We had city dreams, city dreams. We were 17, 17. We had city dreams, city dreams. I was a runaway and you were a jewel. It was paradise in the land of fools. We were free. No strings on you, no strings on me. Free. Time takes no prisoners, you'll see. When you're 17, the thought of a spark could start a fire. Tube top and faded jeans, how we forget how we desire. We were 17, 17. We had city dreams, city dreams. We were 17, 17. We had city dreams, city dreams. We were 17, 17. We had city dreams, city dreams. We were 17, 17. We had city dreams, city dreams. I was busy dreaming, building us a world, daydreaming up a good life that wouldn't hurt and wouldn't spoil. The sun never set there, the water clean and pure. In the beauty there was purpose, so certain, safe and sure. I could live this life forever, but from far, far away. I thought I heard you calling, you said I could not stay. And I woke up in a fever, my calculations were wrong. The pillars could not hold us, and the angels are gone. When hope makes you bleed, when life gets you down, there's all the love you need underground. To make a way for the dark hearts, to feel the love I found. There's all the love you need underground. We dream away. We dream away. of a sunset above a turquoise tide, the beauty of a just world and the convenience of a lie. I tore down that picture. There is no other perfect life, but in the dirt under my fingers, maybe something will survive. When hope makes you bleed, when life gets you down, there's all the love you need underground to make a way for the dark hearts to feel the love I found. There's all the love you need underground. We dream away. There's an open road, and now an open door, and a pretty girl's hand beside yours. Do you know what to do? She looks at you. Can you lead from the legend, bridge the two halves of the world? Hold her hand. We'll never pass this way again. Hold her hand. Forever of a slow dance. Her breath is deep as you make it. There's a chance if you take it, and a heart that you break, it's still a heart. Hold her hand. Hold her hand.
What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Level Up Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco, his name is Courtside King, but again, I think we're friends. Joey, I feel like there's a lot of division going on in the gaming world today, but I think you and I are still friends here, and we're definitely friends with all of you, the gamers and esport fanatics out there as well. So you can call us John, and you can call me John, you can call him Joey. How you doing, buddy? I feel like today has been an absolute roller coaster in the world of gaming and esports.
Yeah, I mean, John, some people get ready for fights like Mayweather. This is just one of those things where it's not McGregor and Mayweather, it's Apple and Epic. And on top of that, John, I think it's going to become a Royal Rumble here shortly.
Oh my goodness, Nation. As always, if you wish to listen to the podcast version of the show, the Level Up Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And since you're listening to the podcast already, why not leave us an awesome review as well, as reviews do go a long way, helping the show grow and reach new listeners. When you do have a moment, we would appreciate you taking a small portion of your day to leave us a really awesome review, or tell a friend, tell a family member, tell someone. We can all hang out. We're all friends here. And Joe and Nation, Joey said it. Most of us woke up this morning thinking it would be an easy day. It'd be an easy Thursday. LCS playoffs started. The NBA 2K League's The Ticket Tournament kicked off. I mean, Linkin Park dropped their Hybrid Theory 20th anniversary box set. That's more key to me than anything. Joey, you and I were going to play some Sea of Thieves after the show today, but then something happened, and that something is Epic. When Epic decided to throw down the Boogie bomb on Apple in the form of a 65-page lawsuit. Joey, I don't know about you, but I went online and got my law degree real quick this afternoon. So there is a lot to break down on today's show. What in the world are we squeezing into the remainder of the show aside from that one major topic?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, we cut down heavily on topics this week to focus on Epic versus Apple and the whole thing going on there. We have a couple partnerships, though, and some exciting roster moves, a few esports updates here and there, but definitely the major topic will be Epic versus Apple.
Oh, Joey, I feel like I need like 3 drinks of choice, in all honesty, because this one's going to get spicy, and it's going to get spicier real quick. Drink of choice segment, Joey. Oh, it needs to be a good one. I have a feeling this one's going to pop off, sir. Your beverage, please, for the drink of choice.
I mean, hindsight being 2020, I probably should have grabbed some apple juice today, but I did switch things up. I went with something in a barrel. I'm going with a little Woodford Reserve bourbon, a little tall and steady.
Joey, I wanted to switch it up because I've had the same drink for like 3 shows in a row, but I feel like it encompasses what we're talking about today. I am back with the Dark and Stormy, the Kraken rum with ginger beer. Dark and Stormy, because my goodness, that 65-page lawsuit is a nightmare. Joey, I don't want to waste any time. We have a lot to cover this episode today on Thursday, August 13th of 2020. So I do not want to waste any more time, Joe. Let's get right into gaming and esports news. Let's go.
Level Up fam, we're going to run through some of this other stuff nice and quickly, and then we'll jump right into the major topic. We're going to kick things off, as always, with roster moves, though. John, Overwatch League. The Washington Justice have added DK, a DPS player, to their roster. This is less than a week after the Dallas Fuel released him from his contract. I think this is a great move overall for the Justice. I mean, when we look at DK, very talented player, very strong DPS player. When we look at his relationship with Dallas, it did not end well. Players, coaches, everyone was coming out and saying DK was not willing to participate. He did not want to practice with the team. He was ready to leave. I get it. It doesn't look good on a player in that way. There's been some conflicting stories out there about how this actually went down. So I 100% don't know which side I'm on at the moment. Overall, though, it looks like he's happy with the Justice. The Justice seem happy with him. He's reunited with Supreme, who I believe coached him previously, as well as some of the other connections he has with the Justice already. I think this is a big move for the Justice. It gives him another DPS player, another talent, maybe not necessarily to fill the shoes that Corey left behind and Stratus left behind, but it does give them a bit more variety to mix in there with Stitch and Tuba.
Yeah, I actually like this move a lot. Decay is a very talented player. Obviously, some things in Dallas didn't go down right, and it really depends upon who you believe, what side of the story you believe. But I actually like this pickup for the Justice. I feel like he's a very strong player that can add some different kind of techniques and strategies to this Justice roster. I feel like with him being the 7th traveling member of this team, there's going to be a lot of flexibility and a lot of, I'm not going to say chemistry needs that's going to need to hammer out, but I feel like he's going to be able to slot in pretty quickly. But I do like this move overall for the Justice more than anything, looking to rebuild the roster into a contender.
Yeah, I mean, in a game like Overwatch, it helps to have more players to rotate here and there. We've seen really good teams like San Francisco and New York do really well with it before, where if a certain hero is in a meta or a certain hero, I mean, they had the whole ban thing for a while, but depending on what heroes are being used, what heroes are being utilized more in high proper meta games, this gives that flexibility. If someone is really good on Widow, you don't want to force them onto Brigitte. This now allows for a little bit more flexibility. Obviously, the whole role system changed a lot of this around, but still, certain players are going to be better on hit scan versus non-hit scan heroes, and this kind of allows for a bit more of that flexibility and really job challenging as well. I like it. I think anything like this, as long as you're not going with a giant roster, I think like 10, 12 man is probably a little too much. Having an extra player here or there, I think this gives the Justice 7 or 8 at this point.
Yeah, I believe it's up to 7 now.
I think it's 7, yeah. So it's a nice little bit of flexibility. You have someone else there to bring knowledge of the game, to bring some effort into scrims, to bring a little bit more of a challenge for certain positions, new insight. I think it's just a great move overall. Valorant, John, we actually teased this one a couple weeks ago before the official announcement, but hey, it is now official. Fun Plus Phoenix, your world champions in League of Legends, have now officially signed on with Valorant. They have picked up a beautiful roster. This is going to be Angel and Xiao from Party Parrots, alongside Shadow, Meadow, and Zypen. So one of the big things with this roster, John, Fun Plus Phoenix, currently based out of China with League of Legends, very big org over there. Now they're coming out and jumping into the EU scene here. Party Parrots is one of those, let's call it an up-and-coming organizations, a smaller team really in general in Valorant, but they've been able to compete with some of the best over in Europe. Now, they're not taking down G2 here and there, but they are fighting. They might take a game off of them. They're competing with the best, in all honesty. So with Fun Plus Phoenix, they're not only getting a good roster, but this now also allows that organization to jump farther into Europe. I think this is another big win in terms of rosters for Fun Plus.
Yeah, absolutely massive roster pickup here for Fun Plus Phoenix. And I think moving into Europe is kind of an interesting strategy there. I would have figured they would have maybe stayed in as an Asian-based team here. But I actually don't mind this move into Europe. I think there's going to be a lot of really strong European League teams. I feel like just like you see in CSGO, Europe really is a hotspot for first-person shooters. So I like the move overall if they're going to look for a competitive scene moving into Europe. And FunPlus Phoenix isn't going to back down. I like the move a lot.
Okay, and the other big thing with this move too, not to spend a ton of time on it, but one thing I like, John, is that they're looking at young players. They went out there to get someone like an Angel, like a Shao. They ended up going with this young talent and allowing it to foster potentially under their brand, as opposed to some of these other teams that are like, okay, we want this top-notch player who used to be with CSGO, or we want this giant streamer so we can bring in all the viewers. A lot of these teams are looking at paying for these players that already have some kind of clout, already have some kind of following. This is FunPlus really taking a chance, not only on a new region with Europe, but also a chance on a lot of these young players. This could pay off super handsomely. Like we saw with Liquid, they ended up getting Scream, who's a veteran player, but then they coupled that with 4 other players from a younger team in Fish123. Now it's kind of similar over here with FPX. Some of these names you guys might recognize from CSGO, but overall, you're bringing in a lot of young, potentially untested talent overall outside of some games during the beta of Valorant in the first couple months of launch. So a lot of chance or a lot riding on this potentially, but it's also not a giant investment if it goes down currently because the scene is still kind of developing.
Yeah, and I kind of really like the move. It feels like when a team gets promoted in soccer, right? They need to rebuild. They start buying those young, promising players that may or may not have that following already, that may or may not prove themselves, but they're looking to prove themselves to take that next step in their career. This move for FunPlus Phoenix reminds me of an organization that is looking to kind of set their note in the league, in Valorant here, by signing young players to try to, have that motivation for them to really prove themselves, to make them worth even more when their contract is up. Or in the case of FunPlus Phoenix, if it doesn't work out, you're not going to lose too much money because you're not signing a mega superstar or anything like that. So I like the move for FunPlus Phoenix. I think if it does work out, I think if some of these players do end up popping off, they'll move on to larger organizations, or maybe FunPlus will cash out the dough here and there. But I feel like it's a good stepping stone for both players and organization here.
Right. I mean, if it works out, FunPlus can say, hey, we're an organization that did really well in League. We're looking to continue to expand. We're going to make this a permanent thing as Valorant becomes a scene. So it's very possible that they just get known from this. It's very possible that FunPlus can also sign them later down the road. So I think it's a big win for everyone involved. Also, a shout out to Squirkle and Chad. He almost made me spit take some bourbon there with his little "will play for clout" comment. I like that one quite a bit. Good times there, Squirkle. Partnerships, John. Honda. This one feels a little late to me, and I just messed up our notes here. There we go. Honda, they have become the first LCS partner to be featured on in-game banners. John, count me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the LEC has been doing this all summer split so far. They might have even done it in the spring split. Why is the LCS so far behind in banners? I think it's a big win for Honda that they're moving forward in this way, but it's a little crazy to me that their league just across the ocean has been doing this for at least a split, if not longer.
Yeah, it's the same reason why, the LEC is graphically ahead of everything else as well. The same reason why, the LEC just has just better production, just better content overall, it feels like. I feel like the LEC really leads the way, and then the LCS is about a split and a half, maybe a full year behind the LEC. So, yeah, I feel like the LCS, I agree with you, Joey, is really late to the party when it comes to in-game advertisements like this. I mean, this was even something that we talked about well over a year ago when the idea of in-game banners started popping up. We're like, it's only a matter of time before you start seeing sponsors in-game, especially for LCS or just the pro scene. Now we saw it in the LEC, and now the LCS is, better late than never. And I think it's great. I think Honda being the first partner to be featured, I think it's a really strong move for Honda, and I think it's a strong move for the LCS. Better late than never.
Well, and it's one of those things that League of Legends has made so easy with these new banners that come up, whether you win them in Clash tournaments and it's a fun little thing here and there, or whether it's a league actually presenting, it gives so much sponsorship space. Like, it's great to have segments like, what is it, when Europe has a pause or some kind of issue, technically, they throw up the Kit Kat, take a break type of thing, which is great. It's fun. It's a great play. You get the Kit Kat logo being shown. But there's something special about seeing in-game as well. Like, as these major team fights are happening, as we're watching two teams dance around Baron for what could potentially be the end of the game, who is going to get this Baron? Will it be stolen? Can this team stay alive? And you see this giant logo of Kit Kat, or in this case, Honda. It's just a huge moment. You think of like golf with the Masters. Tiger Woods had that one super long putt, and everyone will always remember that Nike logo showing right before the ball falls into the cup. This to me is the same kind of thing. You have that giant Honda logo right there on that banner by the Baron pit. Broxa goes in, steals the Baron, and Team Liquid wins the series. Like, there are so many amazing moments that could be had by this, and I think it's just brilliant for League of Legends to put it in there. It's a little bothersome to me that the LCS is behind. Like, as an NA, I'm not going to call myself an NA fan. I watch a lot of LEC, but overall, I want NA to keep up. If LEC production continues improving as it is, it continues to sign new partners, some of which they need to think through a little bit before they sign. But overall, they're making good moves here and there. I want to see LCS keep up. I want to see them be innovative as well, come up with new things. This is a step forward. Still a lot of steps to go, though. Like casters are not even in the studio yet. They could have put up the wall thing like LEC did. They haven't done anything like that. I feel like they're still lagging behind, but again, they're starting to catch up a little bit.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. Also, a shout out to Chipmunks in chat. Thank you for that Prime sub, sir. Anything else you want to touch on with the LCS and their sponsorships, John?
No. I figure, whatever the LEC does right now, it'll happen in the LCS in about a split and a half. So I'll wait to see what the LCS decides is good enough to make it across to this side of the pond.
So Honda, congratulations on working your way onto those banners. We'll see who is coming next and what other innovations are on the way. But John, Riot Games is not done making moves yet. Secret Labs has partnered up on a collaboration with them to release League of Legends world-themed chairs titled the Champions Collection. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at these yet, but we have an Ari chair that is a red color chair, and a Kali chair that comes in black with some nice green and brown on the backside, a Yasuo chair in a navy and light blue, and then a KDA chair in black, purple, and gold. What are your thoughts, sir?
I'm not going to lie. That KDA chair is pretty hot. I'm not going to buy it, but I think it's pretty sweet. It's got a really nice dragon on the back. I think the chairs are cool. I think they're going to hit home for the hardcore League player, the hardcore League of Legends esport fan. If they have a favorite champion that got featured on these Champions Collection chairs, I think they're going to sell out. They're going to sell out. I mean, guaranteed. The MSI chair didn't happen, still sold out. The LCS and LEC chair sold out. It's also the Cyberpunk chair sold out. And that thing was, I didn't like it. It was bright yellow. Sold out. Like it's going to sell. They're $400 chairs are going to sell. I think it's great. I think it's great for League of Legends that they're able to get that collaboration to have that specific champion based gaming chair.
Yeah, absolutely. And Secret Lab has been killing it. They're voted, I think, best gaming chair last year. Now they're competing with the good old Herman Miller Logitech chair for an extra, $700. But overall, yeah, this is great. I mean, they've been killing it with themed chairs for games, for leagues, for teams as well. They just continue to do really well in this area. Ari, Akali, Yasuo, and KDA now available. John, if you had to pick one, though, you only get a choice of one. They're all $389 here. Which one do you take?
KDA. Only because I think purple and gold is just such a classy combination. Like it's good. It's a solid looking chair.
I'm actually a big fan of the KDA chair as well. If I was a bigger fan of the music, not the biggest fan of the KDA music. I gotta say, I do like the Yasuo color combination though too. I'm a big fan of blues. The back though, the clowny back, I'm not as big of a fan of. But overall, I think all of these designs are brilliant. Secret Labs once again killing it with partnerships, and once again Riot Games making awesome Worlds merch. Over to our other news section, John. This one is a bit of a dagger for gamers. I'm not happy with this at all. Remedy and 505 Games have said that only owners of the Ultimate Edition of Control will receive the PS5 and or Xbox Series X upgrade for free. What? So this comes after all of this negative feedback from people about different things, like with 2K putting out certain ways that they have to have games purchased, like you have to purchase the Kobe edition or the premium edition to get it to cross over. EA putting a time limit on crossovers. Xbox really pushing people to kind of make it a bit more consumer friendly. This to me just seems way out in left field. So Control has been a game that's been around it's been like a full year now, I think. At this point, it ended up being nominated for Game of the Year last year. So if John went out there and decided to purchase Control, he had a great time, but he's feeling nostalgic after he gets his next-gen console, and he wants to go back and play it. Sorry, John, you didn't end up buying the premium edition, the ultimate edition in this case. You can't play our game.
Look, allow me to be the hindsight 2020 kind of person. Allow me to be the dose of positivity. I know it's going to be a little shocking here. Joy, at least there's an option to have your game upgrade to the next generation console. This was unheard of when you went from PS3 to PS4. This was unheard of from 360 to Xbox Series X1, 5, X, whatever Xbox wanted to name their last gen console. What I'm trying to say is, yes, as a gamer, it's frustrating because I think we're at that point now where studios can understand that if you're going to release a game at the end of a console generation, you need to be able to allow gamers to play it on the new generation as well. You're putting a game up at a really, really weird time. I'm sorry, you're a developer. You know when it's coming out. You're given the hardware so you can work on your games before time. I feel like it's just a huge money grab. But with that being said, at least you have the option of buying the Ultimate Edition. Now, again, I haven't looked at the pricing for this. If the Ultimate Edition is the same cost as 2 standard versions of the game, then it's ridiculous. Then yeah, you just want to get the standard edition, then you get the standard edition again. You know, it's unless you really want that Ultimate Edition. But at least you have the option. It gives gamers the option. I feel like that's a step in the right direction. Obviously, I would love to see it automatically transferred to the new generation console for all the players out there, but at least it's giving you the option.
Okay, Boomer. Now, I mean, seriously, like, okay, it wasn't around. Yes, you couldn't carry your games over. Yeah, we got it. But now we've had Xbox backwards compatibility for what, 4 or 5 years now? So it's become a more modern day thing. You look at discless consoles as well. That's now a thing. It became a thing last generation. It's moving further. And now we're eventually going to get launches with discless consoles. I mean, it's one of these things that's like, okay, I get it, Remedy. You want to make your money, but you sold this game as a full game for what, $60? Chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but $60 like a year ago. So now you're saying, okay, gamers, you paid us $60. Maybe you even went in and bought the expansions as well at, I don't know, 10, 15, $20 for DLC. And now you're saying you have to buy another $40 purchase for this? That's crazy to me. If I spent $90 on this, assuming DLC costs money, I spent $60 on the game, DLC $30, whatever for the 2 DLCs. I'm going to say around $75 to $90 is what we're looking at. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Now you're saying I have to spend $40 more for the Ultimate Edition if I want to play this game a couple years down the road? Like, yes, you can keep your console and play it, whatever. Maybe it's easier that way. That's fine. But again, if you're ending up being one of those people, and a lot of people do, they'll sell their console back to end up upgrading to the new console. You see it with phones. You see it with consoles. This to me is just an issue. Like, okay, I get it. $40. You want to make your money here and there. Okay, fine. But if it's a new gamer that already has purchased the full game, like that's where I have the issue. This is just the anti-consumer is such a buzzword right now. But this feels anti-consumer to me overall. Like I'm being asked, and I have not purchased a game, so I'm not a perfect example here. But I don't feel like it's fair. It really bothers me that they're going to cash grab for this one. I'm bothered by a lot of these topics today.
You are. And I have a feeling the next topic is going to get you pretty steamed up.
The next topic is big. Okay, guys, I did not expect us to spend any more time on xCloud or Apple or any of these things this week. I thought we were done with this last week, maybe a little bit of touch on Monday, and we'll see what happens later down the road. Well, an epic announcement was made today. A little bit of pun intended there, guys. Epic versus Apple is now a thing. So Apple, in summary, I don't know who knows what, but over the past couple months, Microsoft, Google, and Facebook have been trying to get their cloud streaming platforms or apps released on the App Store. There's been various issues. Some of those are money involved, with Apple winning 30% of any kind of revenue from those apps. Another issue with it is that Apple wants everything to be reviewed. So like with xCloud or Project xCloud from Microsoft, Game Pass has hundreds of games on it. Apple is saying every one of those games needs to be released differently, separately from one another as separate apps. It would be a huge issue for anyone doing that. So Microsoft said, okay, we're not going to play that game. We don't like this policy. We're going to hold our stuff off of the App Store for now and put it on Android. So here we are today. Microsoft has spoken out against them. Facebook has spoken out against them, and Google have spoken out against them. Then on top of that, we saw Apple have a statement. It wasn't a great statement, and they've gotten bashed for it. Now, fast forward to today, Epic has decided to make some amends to Fortnite, where they found a way around Apple where they could have gamers who want to buy V-Bucks within Fortnite could just pay directly to Epic. I don't think this is the right move by Epic. I feel like this was definitely an issue and in violation of the App Store policies. So I completely get Apple's next move, which was to remove Fortnite from the App Store. Now, the part I did not see coming, John, and I'm not sure if you did either, or really anyone did, Epic had everything planned. They knew this was coming, most likely, and they had a 65-page legal document that got filed within 30 minutes of Apple removing Fortnite from the App Store. On top of that, John, they ended up saying, hey, we're not done yet. Come check out this event at 4 p.m. Eastern time, where they showed a teaser video making fun of Apple's 1984 ad as well, using hashtag free Fortnite. So that's where we are today. We'll talk a little bit more about this, and we're going to dive into this heavily. But so far, you have the xCloud thing where they're saying every game needs to be reviewed. And then we have the second portion where Fortnite is saying you guys take way too much from us as developers, and we don't find it fair. We find it anti-consumer and anti-developer and anti-everything, it feels like. Okay, sir, where do you want to dive in first to this beautiful topic?
Well, first, I'm going to shout Squircle out. Thank you for 20 months. Just resub today also. Appreciate that, Squircle. Appreciate the support as well. If I don't shout it out now, I'm going to forget about it later. So a big thank you to Squircle for 20 amazing months subbing here at OTN. Appreciate it, bud. All right. Where do you even begin on this? It's tough, right? So I can understand both sides of the argument here when it comes down to between Epic and Apple. Apple obviously wants to have control over their app store. They pride themselves on, being able to control pricing, being able to control, just every aspect of it so it's not compromised. They force everyone to theoretically follow all the terms and services to have your app on the App Store. And then obviously when Epic does something like this, where they circumnavigate the payment system for the App Store, yeah, Apple's going to get ticked off and they're going to pull it from you. Now, yes, okay, Apple gets 30% of those in-game purchases, whether it's Fortnite, whether it's any other app, that's the TOS. Now, the argument is, obviously, 30% is a massive, massive amount for Apple. That's a massive amount for really any market. Joey, you and I have been talking about this all day since the story broke. In comparison, when you take a look at the Epic Store, when a player buys a game on the Epic Store, just as a slight comparison, it is slightly different here, but as a slight comparison, it's like it's an 88-12 split.
Yeah, I believe it's 12% that the Epic ends up taking on that.
So Epic takes 12%, and 88% of that profit, of that income, goes back to the developer. Now, for in-game transactions, I don't know if that change has broken down a little bit more. I didn't have time to go into the Epic Store and read the TOS to see what exactly it breaks down there. But for Apple, it's 30% of those in-game transactions. So Epic tried to make a point today. They charged less if you paid them directly for V-Bucks. It was $7.99 versus $9.99. And Apple shut them down. It was a breach of their TOS of the App Store, and Apple had every right to do it. Then what I feel like what was shocking was, Epic had to have this planned. They had to, because within 30 minutes, a 65-page legal document comes out. They have an in-game event about the whole thing, like you said, Joey, the whole 1984 Orwellian experience, if you will. Just all ready to go. Like, they knew what Apple was going to do. And, as I read through the legal documents, it's actually kind of interesting of what Epic's actually trying to do here. So, again, we're not lawyers. We don't have legal degrees. This is our own personal opinions and interpretation of this, reading directly from the lawsuit itself. What I find is incredibly interesting is that paragraph 6 on page 2, Epic doesn't even want money from Apple. They just want the unfair practice resolved. They're not even suing for money. They're suing just for the argument that third-party apps have a right to at least industry standard splits of in-game purchases. And I find that very interesting in several ways. Both are obviously large corporations. Apple, right next to Amazon, essentially, it feels like when it comes to owning your life. And Epic, backed by Tencent, a massive gaming organization. Absolutely huge. So it's a battle of two giants, but there's no monetary demand in this lawsuit. It's only about practicing standards, which I found very interesting. So it's like Epic realizes that, yes, there are millions and millions, if not billions, of users on iPhone that want to play Fortnite. But now there's this issue where Apple's not even going to support Fortnite going forward. So eventually Fortnite software isn't going to be compatible to play anymore. And that's going to be a huge issue for gamers. but no money is being sought out by Epic. It's weird, Joey.
Okay, no money is officially being sought out.
Yeah.
I mean, anything in corporate business is about money. There's always some kind of motivation for money here. Epic with this lawsuit is not saying, hey, we want to take money for it. We're not suing you for any monetary losses, etc. But John, what they're looking to do is they're trying to get a bigger cut here. They're trying to find a way to get more of their profit, which I get. I mean, they're a developer. They've made this game. They own the intellectual property for it. They want their due. Now, with that being said, I think they cut into that argument a little bit by discounting the prices automatically, going from $9.99 to $7.99 automatically and saying, look, guys, we're doing a mega sale. It's going to be permanent. We're cutting, I think it was 20% off is what they ended up cut. So they did that today. They're like, okay, regardless of how any of this goes down, we're doing a mega sale. We're cutting all of our prices to $7.99, and that's the way we're going to be moving forward. So again, I think they're still going to get criticism for the money side. They're going to get people saying, hey, it's all about the money, which in a sense, money is definitely involved and is definitely a factor. But coming out and also doing the sale the same day, I think helps cut down on a lot of that negative criticism as well. Now, with that being said, I do not agree with the way that Epic originally went about this. I think they 100% violated the terms of the App Store. Now, with that being said, we also talked about this last week. The terms of the App Store are not necessarily given in the same way to everyone. So Apple, I don't have their statement in front of me. Do you have the Apple statement from today?
I will pull it up real quick.
The first sentence of that Apple statement today is what I'm looking for. I know I put it somewhere on here. But Apple came out and pretty much said like, oh, we hold everyone to the same standards. This is the standard wide for our entertainment. They did not say entertainment in this, but in their actual terms of service, it's supposed to hold for all entertainment apps. Do you have it on there?
It's being slow.
Well, while he looks that up, we're going to talk about entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the big issues here is gaming. Gaming is not necessarily taken the same way as everything else. So the way the TOS is written for the App Store and the way it's supposed to be carried out is for all entertainment apps. Now, the way it is actually carried out is gaming is separate from what we see with movies, music, anything like that. For example, with this policy, Apple is supposed to review every single game, any form of entertainment in the sense that comes to their platform. So with gaming, they're saying every game on Microsoft's xCloud, every game on Google Stadia, every game on Facebook Gaming's app has to be ended up and reviewed separately. And the way they would prefer it is that every game is released as a separate app. That allows for them to have a clear way to getting their revenue, a clear way to review, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, Apple, we get where you're coming from, yes. But now you look at the other side of entertainment. You look at music, for example. Do they review every single song on Spotify? Do they review every single song on SoundCloud? Do they review every podcast and all the podcast catchers on the platform? You look at video. Are they reviewing every single movie that Netflix is putting out? Are they reviewing the movies on Amazon Prime? Crunchyroll for the anime fans out there. YouTube is a giant one that T-Span's brought up before in Discord. I mean, there are so many other things in this entertainment category that they list out in the terms of service that are not being regarded that same way. Because I can guarantee Apple is not reviewing every single video on YouTube. It's impossible. It would not be done. Now, I think YouTube leaves a little bit of room for negotiation because Google is not necessarily taking a payment on a lot of this YouTubes unless you have the whole sub feature kind of involved in there. Same thing for Twitch. I don't think they're reviewing streams, but again, you have to look at the direct payment a little bit differently than something like a Netflix, like an xCloud, where it is a subscription fee for a list of different titles. But when you're going to group everything together in your terms of service as entertainment, you cannot hold gaming to a separate standard, whether it be for Microsoft, whether it be for Google, whether it be for any of these other developers out there. If you're not doing the same for these other movie and music services, then it gets a little hairy. And I think there's a lot of room to work legally against Apple in that area.
Now, a question I have for you, Joey, is I was having a conversation with several friends today, and one of which happens to be here in chat in Genetically Perfect, and he brought up actually a very interesting point in the Apple terms of service between interactive and non-interactive apps on the App Store, that Apple actually has different rules for interactive apps versus non-interactive apps. Interactive apps meaning games where you can physically manipulate the code to make decisions in game for that app, versus non-interactive where you click play on a song and it's always going to play that song regardless. That's something that has to be taken into account also on the side of Apple for these decisions, is that, you know, when you have a bunch of programming that can be manipulated by the user versus programming that is going to stream a set file that is not being able to be manipulated, I feel like that is going to play a role in those decisions as well.
No, absolutely. I think it's definitely going to be a case. And again, Apple is not argumentless here. They definitely have pieces that they can argue 100% in their favor. Also, to chat, genetically perfect, no, but they don't allow you to sign up for Netflix or Spotify via Apple, though. That's because of Netflix and Spotify. They were both on there at one point. Netflix and Spotify decided to cut that tie. So Netflix and Spotify said, hey, we're not going to allow this. We don't want you to take the 30% cut. And again, guys, that is an option here for developers. People that want to do the subscription prices can say, hey, Apple, you're going to have to allow people to sign up on our service and then they can just use the apps. But again, it comes down to those multitude of games and things there as well. So there's a few different layers involved with like individual purchases of games versus individual subscription prices here and there. It's not official, but I have word that Spotify might join into one of these suits as well. So they might go back based on that subscription price too. There's so much here, John. Okay, so another piece of this. Well, let's stay with this first, then we'll jump over because EU is involved too. The European Union is definitely doing some reviewing in this area as well. Let's talk about Epic with this move, though. So one of the big things that we saw come out was this whole little video thing that they put out, and it's making fun of the 1984 video that Apple did as a marketing campaign. The other piece of that is now a couple hours later, we see Google actually pulling Fortnite off of the Google Play Store as well. And there's been no response in over an hour, to my knowledge, from Fortnite or from Epic Games yet. So Fortnite and Epic may have just been saying, okay, we know Apple's going to respond this way. This is how we're going to respond. But to my knowledge, there's been no legal document drawn up, no legal action taken, or anything in that way so far to combat Google's new move.
Yeah, no breaking news on that as of yet either. But the same reasoning of Apple of circumnavigating the not in-game, but in-store payment system was used by Google. Now, obviously, it is still available on Android. There are different ways of downloading it, but it's not officially available through the Google Play Store. That is the big difference. If you already have it, including on Apple, you are still able to download it. If you delete it off your phone, you still have the ability to re-download it because it's already linked to your Apple ID. So that's not what we're saying here. We're saying for new users. This is obviously a game that's incredibly popular around the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar game. It's a multi-billion-dollar company in Epic. So it's absolutely massive and constantly has new users coming to the game through Android, through Apple, through PC, through everything. So that's the big thing here is that, yes, it is still available on Android through other markets, but not through the official market. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind too.
Okay, so diving a bit more into the suit and what is actually taking place and what they're suing for. So, John, I know you dove a bit into the legal documents, as did I. And one of the big things that came up as far as arguments was the Cartwright Act of California. This, in a sense, is what we're calling the dagger that Epic is using. John's phrasing, absolutely love it. So we're going to use it here on the show. John, break down that law a little bit. What are we looking at and what is Epic trying to dive into with this particular approach that they're taking in this lawsuit?
Of course, I don't actually have it pulled up yet. So it's a California law, and because Apple obviously is based in California, that's where they're going to file the lawsuit. Epic Games, fun fact, if you didn't realize it, yes, their headquarters is in North Carolina, but they're actually a Maryland-based game, so they're actually DMV local, if you didn't know that. So essentially what it is, for the Cartwright Act of California, it's an act that was implemented for unreasonable restraints of trade in marketplaces. So in this case, the marketplace being the iOS App Store, and having non-equal or unfair industry standards being violated. So it is kind of an interesting take on this law, because essentially what Epic is saying is that the industry standard states, or currently is, that X amount of income in a marketplace will go to the actual marketplace for hosting that product, for that good, for that service. And in this case, Apple's App Store is much higher than what is considered industry standard. Again, Apple charging 30% for in-game purchases versus right around, I've seen reports anywhere from 2.9 to 5 to even 10%. So even if you want to take the high end on that and say it's 10%, it's still 20% even higher than that. So it is a big deal. Like, you and I, Joey, 30% from, $10. Okay, cool. So that's $3. I'll take that any day of the week. To a multi-billion-dollar company, $3 for a company that makes hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in the span of several months, that is an absolute massive blow to a marketplace, to a game, to an app, if you will. That $3 is massive income. So they're using the Cartwright Act as their legal dagger, if you will, to say, hey, look, this is industry standard. Apple is not doing this. It's an unfair marketplace, and you have to play by Apple's rules. Otherwise, you're not going to be on the App Store. And, they can make the argument that it's a publicly traded company. It's not private. It's not, there's a lot of things that go into this, but the Cartwright Act is literally an anti-competitive, not anti-competitive, but it's a way to create equal fairness across the board. So there isn't like I don't even really want to use monopoly, but when you think about it, Apple does kind of have a monopoly on the iOS App Store because you have to use Apple Pay. Now, Spotify and Netflix are a great example. They've opted out of that. You have to sign up through their individual website, but you can still stream it through the App Store, through the programming there. But if you don't have that set up, you have to use the iOS payment system. So that's the argument. Is citing the Cartwright Act is that's what they're going to argue, is that Apple is creating a monopoly on the marketplace by forcing higher than normal industry standards for their cut of in-game app purchases.
And again, at least to my knowledge, John, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this only applies to California right now, correct? This particular law?
Yes, the Cartwright Act is solely based in California.
So that's another thing to keep in mind, guys. Now let's take another layer that no one is really talking about. This is the whole 30% layer. So Apple is out here. They're charging 30% to developers. And yes, that part's being talked about. But there's another layer beyond that. So a lot of the comparisons being made right now are to the Steam store, to Epic Games Store at their 12% rate. A lot of these different PC stores charge a lot less to developers. Developers are getting a lot more of their money from their games. Now, when we look at the industry standard on mobile, though, and this is interesting with Google now pulling out as well, again, still available on Android, but not from the Google Play Store, being Fortnite, Google does charge 30% as well. So when we're looking at it, you have a 70% cut for the developers, a 30% cut that Google is taking. Now, this lawsuit from Epic is only focused right now on Apple. They have not included Google, and they have not included, again, another thing people are not talking about, Microsoft and Sony. When you look at the Xbox store and the PlayStation store, and I thought this was lower, both Xbox and PlayStation charge 30% to developers. So not only are you looking on the mobile marketplace with Apple, and now the not included Google, and the not included on the console side, Microsoft and Sony, you do have 4 companies at least that are out there charging 30% on these stores. So now the argument becomes, okay, so you've sued Apple now. Now Google has come out and pulled Fortnite. Are you going to sue Google next? And then it's like Epic, okay, so you've done this. You've conquered the mobile market potentially if they go through and win these. And then it goes to the console side. Now, the console side, I personally think there's let's say under the table, separate agreements being made between PlayStation and Epic and Microsoft and Epic. I don't think there's a 30% cut on those markets. Just from the way they interact with one another. All last week, and a lot of people didn't notice this as well, Tim Sweeney was very much in support of Microsoft's arguments for xCloud on Apple stores. So everything App Store related, he was retweeting from Microsoft. He was retweeting from Xbox. On the Sony side, PlayStation and Sony do own a stake of Epic. Again, people are blowing it out of proportion. It's only like 1.5%, but they still own a stake in Epic as well. So they are stakeholders literally in Epic as PlayStation. And then Microsoft, even though they're a little buddy here and there with these retweets and things going back and forth on social media, they're being charged the same thing from the Microsoft store too.
Yeah.
That to me is a whole nother layer.
It is. I mean, if you're going to make the argument that the industry standard is well below really and you're going to be, trying to lowball it, but yeah, at the same time, you're not suing these other not really competitors, but marketplaces that your game is being hosted on. that are taking the same cut, your argument kind of goes out the window. It kind of seems like you're just trying to go after the top dog then by saying, hey, Apple, your payment system sucks. I'm not a fan of it. I want to get more money out of it. So I'm going to try to prove the point. And then in the process of doing that, I mean, again, obviously, Epic was well prepared for Apple's response. They're not prepared for Google pulling out, and they're not prepared for anything else that may come from Microsoft or Sony if the same thing happens there, if they're all pulling that same 30%. It's tough to make that argument against one when you have four of the major players here charging the same amount for those in-game purchases. So, that's a massive blow to their argument if that is the case. When this does go to trial, will this go to trial? No idea. Chances are two large companies like this, it'll get settled out of court. Will it be in favor of Epic? Will it be in favor of Apple? We'll probably never know. They'll probably never make those documents public. But at the end of the day, the argument is that if Epic's going to claim that 30% is too much, that it's above the industry standard, but yet the same other marketplaces that they're on are charging the same amount, that argument goes right out the window. So I don't think that's something that Epic was prepared for, obviously, because, with Apple's response, again, 30 minutes later, a 65-page lawsuit. So they were prepared for it. They kind of been blindsided by Google. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
And the other thing I'm not sure, and if someone's booted up Fortnite on their PS5 or PS4 or Xbox One, please speak up. To my knowledge, John, I don't know if they ended up implementing the system where people can buy directly from Epic on consoles yet. If that is the case, I don't know if anyone has blocked the transfer either. So that's a little bit of an unknown right now. I don't even have Fortnite downloaded on my Xbox. I don't know if you do on your PlayStation over there, but I think that's another piece of the puzzle. Is it actually on there? Has this update been not mandated, but put into place so far? Have conversations happened with Microsoft and Sony? I really don't know on that front. If anything, though, I think Google definitely was a blindside. Just seeing how prepared they were for Apple, and then now hours later, still no statement, no negotiation, no 65-page legal document being thrown down against Google, I think is a big place for people to stand on the Apple side for. Now, on the other side here, John, there's this whole thing with xCloud. So we talked about it last week. xCloud is this service that's trying to be implemented on different devices. It's been allowed on Android. Google Stadia is another one. NVIDIA GeForce Now is another one. Amazon has one in the works. So there's like 4 or 5 different cloud gaming services out there. Apple has blocked every one of them to our knowledge so far. Now, the big thing with this, again, it comes down to reviewing the different titles and all that back and forth. Microsoft has come out with a statement and Facebook has come out with a statement so far. The other people have not stepped up. The other companies, Google, Amazon, etc., have not made official statements. Now, with that being said, none of them have stepped forward on a suit of Apple yet either. This could be them just still planning it. I've heard some background noise about them looking at a joint suit against Apple, a few of these different companies, which is very possible that comes out later on. But since then, John, the EU has picked this up. They've ended up starting to investigate Apple and their basis on cloud-based gaming, how they're being, in their terms, anti-competitive against it. So again, nothing has been formally filed by any of these companies or by the EU, but it is being investigated for anti-competitive. I'm back and forth on this. I think it should be allowed. I don't see any issue with it being allowed. Again, you have the whole fee part that needs to come into play. Apple will argue for security all day, which I get. They're very secure. A lot of people will say Macs are as secure as you can get technology-wise. They can be cracked, but hey, they are pretty secure. When you look at it overall, though, in general, you're saying, okay, these gamers want access to this. We're giving it on Android for almost all of these services. Why is it not available on Apple? And I think that's where the anti-consumer argument is starting to come up over in the EU. Do I think it gets overturned? Not really sure. But overall, I think there is a bit of a basis there for people to argue on as well. What are your thoughts on anti-consumerism, our new keyword of the week?
And today's episode is brought to you by anti-consumerism. We're going to have a Muppet pop up and kind of explain it and everything now. You don't want to screw the consumer over, obviously, because, you take the consumer off. They're not going to buy your product. They don't buy your product. You don't get income. You don't get income. You go under. That's capitalism 101. That's how the economy works here in America. So, it's an interesting argument because can you really state that it's anti-consumerism if the consumer is still buying that product? Yes, theoretically, it hurts the consumer because you can make the arguments like, oh, well, the developer's not getting the money it needs to give back to the consumer who's invested time and money into their product, blah, blah. I think that's a loose argument. I don't feel like that argument is going to win anything over. I'd have to look more onto the EU side of things in regards.
Well, let me cut
to
you off for just a second. So we're talking about unreleased apps, though.
Okay.
We're talking about xCloud and Stadia not being able to release, and that's part of the argument. Apple is saying we need to review every single game, and or every single game needs to be released separately if we don't review them on a in-app purchase basis or whatever. So they're pretty much saying you cannot have your service on our device unless you break it out into separate apps. For something like Microsoft's xCloud, that's 100 plus apps for these different games.
Yeah, and I think that comes back down to, you know, like Genetically Perfect pointed out, is the difference between interactive and non-interactive applications in a lot of these stores is that, you know, again, when you are going to a cloud-based music service or a cloud-based movie service, that file doesn't get manipulated. You press play as a user, it plays from a database and boom, it's there. It gets played from the cloud and you're there. When it comes to interactive games, I just feel like Joey, you can go on Steam, and Steam even has a problem regulating games. In fact, I would argue Steam uses user reports too much to eventually justify the removal of a game from the Steam library, because they just sit there and go, oh, we want to be developer friendly, so we're going to let everyone out there. Then you get some of the cringiest of cringe games that pop up on the market, and then there's outcry, and then 4 days later, it finally gets pulled. But in those 4 days, because of the outcry, everyone downloads the game, and they still get credit for those downloads, and blah, 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 and all the other crap that goes with it. So I feel like that's the issue, is that when you're a little too loose when it comes to interactive games like that, or interactive applications, especially in the sense of Apple, you can fall into that same issue that Steam currently has, where you may get some very non-image friendly, like Apple wants to keep their image, you know, friendly applications showing up on your website. You want to make sure that the coding doesn't have malware in it. You want to make sure that you're not going to download a virus like the App Store had several years ago, when they had a bunch of phony apps show up and people were downloading. Somehow it got past their automated system, and they had that issue as well. So I feel like that's the big difference here, is the terms of services that are different for interactive apps versus non-interactive apps, so that are just playing a file, versus a program that's manipulated by the user.
I mean, to me, it's still, I get it. I 100% get it. I think Genetically Perfect has a great argument there as well. To me, the one thing that comes down to, though, is you're still looking at stuff that's not necessarily being reviewed on a single content basis, the way the terms of service is written. When it comes to entertainment, everything is supposed to be individually ended up being looked over. So again, songs, videos, games, all this is individually reviewed. I get the difference. One can be somewhat manipulated in a sense. As you're playing through a game, you're obviously manipulating code, kind of. It can definitely be, I think you could argue that here and there, because there's definitely interaction being taking place between the user and that file. And again, you're clicking a play button. It's much less interaction, but it comes down to the general basis of, under entertainment, everything is supposed to be reviewed individually. And it's just an issue to me, more or less, that is not being done in these different forms of entertainment. Again, I'm a heavy gamer. I enjoy movies. I enjoy music. I would love for it all to be accessible. But I think the issue here is that we're seeing a lot of people allow this. A lot of different platforms are playing nicely around this. Heck, we even had Sony allow crossplay recently because of some pressure here and there. But when it comes down to it, it's just, this is one of those things that I feel like, I don't want to say Apple's overprotective, but I do feel like they're a little overprotective. I get it. They want to support their users. They want to support their ecosystem. They want to protect what they're working with. But users are also asking for these different things. Users want the ability to. And I get it. You can protect them here and there because they might be asking for something they shouldn't have or should not need. But at the same point, they want to play these games. These games have been reviewed by multiple bodies beforehand. One, the Microsoft Store. Two, the ESRB. It has an ESRB rating that comes out that parents definitely, parents go by, but not necessarily as cleanly as they probably should at times. But that's one of those things. Like, okay, it's being rated multiple times before it even hits your store. And then you have the ability to go through and review these games if you want to as well. I don't really see the holdup in this sense. Like, I see some of the arguments. I just don't know, for me, if they're valid enough to hold it back.
Yeah, but also at the same time, you have to remember the consumer opts into that ecosystem. The consumer opts in to Apple by purchasing an iPhone. The consumer opts into Google by buying an Android-based phone. So, I mean, you know that going in, like if you're the kind of consumer that wants a well-structured phone that you're not going to have to worry about, any kind of malicious software or applications as much as maybe your competitors, and you want more of a structured experience, you're going to go Apple. If you're the kind of person that likes to, jailbreak your phone, you want that freedom, you want to change your font and all these other fun features that you want to unlock on your phone, you're going to go Android. You're going to go with the system that is more open source, that allows more freedom to you, the user, but that also comes with consequences. There's a reason why Android phones have more issues with malware, with viruses, with a ton of things that Apple doesn't have to worry about as much, because Apple is more of that structured ecosystem. You, the user, have that option to opt into that ecosystem or not. Now, with Google opting out in the Google Play Store, yes, that's the kind of thing that makes Google great, if you will, is that it's not available in the Google Play Store, but it is available through other markets. That's the plus on the side of Android versus Google, where Android versus Apple, where Apple, you have to go through one single app store. So, I mean, again, is it really anti-consumer when the consumer is the one that's opting in to that ecosystem?
Yeah, and I think that's a big argument. And I think one of the other sides is a lot of the consumers are blind as well. I mean, when you look at a lot of these consumers, they have no idea what developers make from these app stores, whether they're on iPhone, whether they're on an Android device. Most people don't even look past this. They're just like, ooh, Fortnite, I want to play. I want some V-Bucks for this new skin. And they're just going to go out and purchase. They have no idea what the developer makes. They have no idea how much the skin is actually worth. They have no idea even how long they're going to play with the skin, but they're going to spend because they want it. It's the same argument with loot boxes that have come up here and there. There's the whole gambling side of things. There's the whole, I think they called it predatorial type of gambling or something along those lines. But that's another argument that just continues to wrap around gaming and continue to wrap around these different stores. Now, John, another piece of this whole thing is this 30% again, but it has legally come out going on, but the case that Apple is currently involved in. So they have made this statement over and over that everyone is treated exactly the same when it comes to this 30% price. It has now legally come out in court that is wrong. It has been testified. It has been incorrect. It has been proven wrong. One of the people that it was wrong with was Amazon. So the way that Apple and Amazon interact with one another, they do not take a 30% on purchases from Amazon devices or Amazon apps. So like if you're buying a video on Prime, Apple is not taking a 30% on that. That came out in court, I believe it was last week. So now Apple is continuing to make all these statements about everyone being treated equally, yet there are side deals that are starting to pop up as well. You want to take the defense on that one?
No, I mean, I think that's a very valid point. I feel like, Apple and Amazon obviously have some kind of backroom deal when it comes to that. It's a valid argument. I feel like, Chat's killing me with some of these comments, No, I mean, chat is absolutely right. Like the examples they're using, it's like, I don't know if I want to use some of these. My goodness.
That's a great one over there.
I'm not even going to read that out loud, but no, I'm just going to say, chat, you have a very, very valid point. I mean, yeah, look, at the end of the day, they're large corporations. Do they really care about the average Joe? The answer is no. And if you think they do, you're absolutely crazy. They do not care about you. They care about what you spend. They care about the money that you're pumping in to their company. That trickles up to the top 2% of their company, and nobody else gets a cut from it. I mean, let's be real here. In 2019, Fortnite alone made Epic $1.9 billion. Almost $2 billion in 2019 alone came from Fortnite. And let's not forget, Epic also launched their Epic Store as well. So they're getting income from that too. So yes, Epic is making an absolutely absurd amount of money. Same thing with Amazon and their marketplace. Obviously, they're not that small book company anymore. They've grown into this gigantic tech overlord around the world. So yeah, I mean, obviously, when it comes to Amazon, you're going to cut them a deal. Amazon's not going to be on your phone. Now, I'm not saying this is right, but I'm saying it makes sense why Apple made that deal. Amazon is not going to sit there and say, oh, you're going to get 30% of every purchase made in my app. Yeah, you're out of your freaking mind. I mean, even the US government is struggling to have states charge sales tax on Amazon. I mean, that's how powerful Amazon is. So while I understand the example, and I hate saying this because it's hypocritical as anything, Amazon seems to be the exception to everything. I mean, they even get discounts from the federal government when it comes to their shipping services. They don't have to pay the same rates. That's the reason why the U.S. Postal Service is in an absolute disaster and firestorm, because Amazon is literally running them into the ground. So Amazon, to me, is the exception to pretty much everything, because that's what the government has done. They have shown that Amazon has to be the exception. So while I get it, the argument is 100% valid. I just feel like it's valid, but it's also not, because of how the entire world has treated Amazon.
It's valid in a sense. Like, yes, obviously Amazon is being treated differently by multiple entities. But when it comes down to legality, John, if you're going to say everyone is treated equally in this, and then you come out and there's legal documents that have been provided now in this current case where it shows that Amazon was treated differently and given a better price than all these other developers, then it doesn't quite work that way. Like, yeah, people have worked their way around Amazon in these different sectors. But now that we're into cases and we're into Supreme Court, or not Supreme Court, but different court proceedings, now we're at the point where, like, okay, they're going to have to be remedied a bit here. And it's not going to look as bad on Amazon as it is Apple, because Amazon is not necessarily going over the policies. Apple is changing the policies, adapting the policies to allow Amazon to take a smaller cut. I'm very curious how it's going to go, because I don't think Amazon's the only one. I guarantee there are other services out there that probably have some kind of deal with Apple, maybe in a smaller entity than Amazon. Well, definitely a smaller entity, but maybe in a smaller way as well, maybe a lesser percentage. Maybe there's some kind of marketing deal that goes on. I don't 100% know, but I have a feeling it's not going to be the last one we see either.
Yeah, but Joey, just for my last example here, because I feel like we're beating the crap out of Amazon here. Take a look at the HQ2 series with Amazon. How many cities were throwing up absurd tax breaks to Amazon to bring them to their city, to their region, because of the amount of business, the amount of jobs, the amount of income, even with those absurd tax breaks, would still bring into that region? I mean, Joey, we got lucky here in the Northern Virginia area that Amazon is gracing Crystal City now, and it's going to make traffic even worse than what it is.
That's what I was just going to
when
say.
5,000 Amazon employees are brought in from Seattle and they're parking their butt up in Arlington now. It's pardon me, national landing. Thank you, Genetic. I appreciate it. No, I mean, again, it's hard to use Amazon as an example when literally everyone bends over backwards for them. It's the same thing as the Walmart effect. When Walmart moves in, local businesses suffer from it. When Amazon goes into a next genre of selling of a marketplace, it affects them too. Amazon is starting to ship massive amounts of furniture now. That's affecting the furniture market. That's what Amazon does. That's the same reason why they don't pay sales tax on a lot of things they ship out. It's the same reason why if you buy locally, you still have to pay sales tax. Is that fair? No. Is that fair to the local business that has to ship the same product to you locally, and they have to pay more money to do it when Amazon gets a tax break to do it? I understand the argument for Amazon, but I feel like that's the golden piñata that can't be hit, just because of just how society has treated Amazon. Now, if there are other companies that are not as powerful as Amazon that Apple is treating that way, then I feel like that's the way to go with the argument, is saying that, obviously Amazon, the massive overlord that they are, may be untouchable, if you will. But if you bring in even Walmart, you pay sales tax. I don't know. You have to find something smaller than an Amazon, something more on the level, and this sounds weird saying it's something more on the level like an Epic or a Microsoft or a Sony, as massive corporations as they are, to use that as the example of they're being treated differently versus the golden piñata that is Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get the argument. I 100% see where you're coming from. But again, the accusations are not against Amazon. They're against Apple. It's Apple treating companies differently. So yes, it's Amazon on the receiving end. But again, it's Apple treating differently. And Amazon is not the one being sued here. It's Apple. They're going to say, Apple, you treated this company differently. Regardless of who it is, it can be Mom and John's Crab Shack. But when it comes down to it, they were treated differently by Apple. So Amazon may be this golden pedestal or standing on this golden pedestal, but the apple could fall far from the tree here.
But that's the point, though, is Apple doing anything different than what the federal government's doing, than what the state governments are doing, than what local cities and counties and districts are doing? They're not. I mean, it's going to be hard to say that Apple can't do it, but literally the representatives of the taxpayer said, you know what, it's fine, you can do it. It's a double standard. I feel like you can't sit here. And again, I understand there's a very big difference in terms of law when it comes down to government versus corporation. But at the same time, it's like, if the government has allowed it for this special treatment, why all of a sudden are we waving the red flag saying, Apple, you can't do this? Why is Apple the company that has broken the glass ceiling when it comes to treatment of Amazon versus everybody else? When Apple's doing the exact same thing, I guarantee you Google's doing the same thing. I guarantee you Google's not charging Amazon the same rate across their app store for app purchases through them that Apple's doing. I guarantee you there's both stupidly low in comparison to other marketplaces that are available through their stores.
Now, I don't necessarily agree with you, but for the sake of this argument, I'm going to agree with you on North America and the United States. So now you have the whole European Union also looking to Apple to possibly sue, where this is not the case with Amazon over there.
Correct.
So that's a whole nother piece to this too.
But I am not as familiar with EU law. It is a whole different cesspool.
Let's be clear, chat. We're not
we're not lawyers. We're not lawyers.
Yeah, we do not know NA law that well either.
But you can use common sense. When there's not a lot of legal jargon. First off, kudos to Epic for using screenshots of your game in your legal filing today. I thought that was very classy. Yeah, I mean, EU has stricter laws when it comes to what corporations can and can't do, especially in a digital marketplace. Amazon has different rules they have to follow in EU. That's a prime example. There are different fees that Amazon has to pay. There's different shipping fees. There's different taxes and everything else they have to pay based upon what EU law is. So yeah, that's a completely different ballgame. And same thing with Apple in this case, is that they have a completely, that's like playing, that's like the NL versus the AL in baseball. There's a different set of rules, depending upon where you physically are located. So I feel like the EU is a completely different argument because their laws are very, very different from what's happening here in North America. And I feel like that's a very good separate topic to look into if I knew a little bit more about EU law.
And that's where we are, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, John, I feel like we could go back and forth on this for day upon day, hour upon hour. I don't really want the show to go super, super long, though, unless there's anything else we want to touch on this. We have a few other topics we may touch on. How are you feeling over there?
I'm feeling fine. I feel like, this is definitely a topic that's going to take time to develop. Obviously, some things to keep an eye on. We want to see Epic's response to Google pulling out for Fortnite. That's going to be something big to look at. We're going to look to see what Apple does in terms of this lawsuit. Again, I'm not expecting too much to come out now that a legal briefing has been filed, unless it's made public. I don't see that happening between two incredibly large corporations because a lot of dirty laundry may come out to play. I think that's going to be pretty much behind closed doors. But the big thing to look at is what's going to happen in EU and what's going to happen in terms of Epic's response to Google pulling Fortnite out of their Google Play Store. Again, regardless, you can still get it through other marketplaces on Google, on Android apps. But it's a big deal when it comes out of the official app store because, believe it or not, you do have people out there that will only purchase from the official store for that phone's operating system. So I feel like those are the two big things to keep an eye out here. If any information does come out in regards to the lawsuit, from Epic on Apple. Obviously, he's going to be here on the show. If anything develops in EU, if EU decides to go forward with a lawsuit as well, if anybody else joins in, obviously you want to keep up to date with Level Up Live for more breaking information on that as well. And we'll do our best to keep the information up to date as well. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, whether it's OTN Media, whether it's Level Up Live, whether it's Joey at Courtside King, myself at Fiasco. We'll be talking about it as soon as the news breaks. It's a hot topic. This is a big moment in gaming when it comes to profit margins of in-game purchases. This is going to be a big thing, and the final ruling of this is going to affect the marketplace, and it's going to affect you, the gamer, in your wallet, essentially, based upon what profit margins are going to be deemed acceptable from this lawsuit.
Yeah, 100%. This is going to be a giant precedent set in the gaming industry, both on mobile and honestly, I think it extends to console and other platforms as well. Like you said, John, this is also going to come back to the consumer. Do we end up seeing prices change if these 30% fees are adjusted? Or does the developer say, hey, we're just going to pocket the extra change there? Do we see discounts coming out like we've seen with Epic already, where they have this, I think they're calling it a mega sale, and they cut like 20% off of their price? Do we see any of these changes end up happening, I'm going to say worldwide in a sense, if this is now branching out to EU as well? China's a whole nother story over there. But when we look at these prices, I'm wondering if the consumer ends up biting the bullet and still paying the same or paying more potentially, depending how this argues out. One other thing with this, and I've just heard whispers about this, so take it with a giant grain of salt. I've heard Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Amazon, NVIDIA, and a few other companies are involved in different talks about possible lawsuits for Apple. Again, there's a whole lot around this. I don't have any proof of any of it. So far, the only statements we have seen are the statement from Epic today, and then a statement from Microsoft and Facebook last week on top of Apple's statements. So again, NVIDIA has not said anything, to my knowledge, out front yet. Google, I don't think, has really spoken up about it yet either, outside of a few things here and there. Amazon, they've not even allowed or announced their cloud-based gaming service that's currently in the works. So there's still a lot of secrets around that, or possible, if it even happens, and then you have this backwards relationship with Apple and all this. So who knows on that one either. But supposedly there's different people looking at legal terms, looking at ways they could possibly get involved in different cases. If you ask me, I think they're going to wait to see what the EU ends up saying. If the EU finds out that they think there's a case there, then I think you start seeing Microsoft and Google and some other people possibly jump on board here. John, I think that does it for Epic versus Apple for now.
God,
I mean, there's
so
like
done.
hundreds of things to talk about, but I think we covered a giant base so far to at least get things kind of rolling with it.
Yeah, T-Spans is too busy trying to argue if Google Play is the official app store for Android. Newsflash, it is. Sorry, it is. It's literally on Android's web pages. It's on Google's web page. I mean, Google made Android. I mean, let's be real here. Come on now. So it's fine. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Love it.
Let's move on. Let's get off this topic. Obviously, it's going to be developing. So yeah.
Okay, guys, we did go long tonight, so we're going to cut a few of these topics and move them to Monday's show, but we do need to hit on some of these major esports events. John, take us away with NBA 2K and their ticket tournament that kicked off today.
NBA 2K League season wrapped up last week with Week 12. Top 9 teams have qualified for the playoffs, as well as the mid-season tournaments winners. They have qualified as well. So now the ticket tournament is the 1 week long end of season tournament to determine that final seed for the 2K League. That is starting as of now. It is currently going on with this show. It's going to be going all weekend long. I definitely highly recommend watching it if you're a fan of sports simulation esports. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really great personalities and entertainment value from the NBA 2K League. So definitely check that out. The ticket tournament, the final spot in the postseason up for grabs.
Can we just take a minute to respect chat and how fired up they are about this Google store being the official store, or the Google Play Store?
You know, out of all the topics and all the things we said tonight, I'm glad that is the one that they've decided to focus on, is the fact that if Google Play is the official or is not the official app of Android. So I find that, you know what? I love it. I love it. I love it. You know what? Kudos to you, chat. A round of applause for chat. You guys are killing it. I love it.
Good arguments being made on both sides over there, so keep it up, chat. John, the other thing we got to talk about is the LCS, because playoffs kicked off today, and we had a spicy matchup to kick things off. Absolutely loved it. We were both pulling for one team over the other. We made it pretty clear in previous episodes we are not the biggest fans of Team Solo Mid.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. TSM.
No, never heard of them.
TSM, the team that always shows up representing NA and then gets dumpstered at different international events. You know the TSM.
Or the fans that chant TSM when their team hasn't even qualified for a tournament because they're just absolute trolls.
I like the fans that chant TSM at games that TSM does not even have teams in personally.
Exactly.
Those are my favorite.
Exactly.
Yeah, good times over there. But Golden Guardians and TSM did have their match, John. Again, a playoffs match. We're looking at Golden Guardians, the underseeded team over here. TSM being the giant. We can't really call them a powerhouse at this point. A previous powerhouse of the NALCS or the LCS now. They did not look too great this split. They've been shaky. They've made some changes. A new jungler coming in Spica. They have a new support. That got changed out. Biofrost got moved down mid-season, and I think Treats is the new support over there. The roster's been shaky, though. Bjergsen's got a great beard. He's still growing that thing out, but growing wins has not really been a thing for TSM so far this split. They came into the series with Golden Guardians today. A lot of people thought it was going to be close. I thought it was going to go 5 games. I thought Golden Guardians had a good shot at coming on top. I thought it was going to be a very good series, but again, 4 or 5 games at the least. This was a 3-0 in favor of Golden Guardians. Shout out to Squircle in chat over there. John, they obliterated TSM.
And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Yes, we are all Golden Guardian fans today. Big shout out to GG for that massive, massive sweep. You can't even be mad. Like, you really can't be mad. Like, GG has come such a long way as an organization. This was their first, post-season, if you will, series win. And it was a sweep over a classic name in League of Legends in TSM. So I think that's a massive milestone if you're a GG fan. I know Squircle was stupid happy about it all over Twitter, blowing up my timeline. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I agree with them. Joey, personally, my motto when it comes to esports is rule number 1, root for Cloud9. Rule number 2, and you root for any team that beats TSM. So in my book, we're all GG fans today. So huge win. I agree with you, though. I thought it was going to go 5 games. I thought it was going to go at least 4, possibly 5. GG has been looking incredibly well, especially towards the end of the season. They even handed Cloud9 a loss. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Golden Guardians have come a long way, and you cannot count them out. TSM kind of did. And guess what? They got swept 3-0.
So, John, did you get a chance to watch any of these games by chance?
No, I didn't watch it.
Oh, yeah. I was not a fan of the timing of these games either.
The timing was terrible.
Like mid-afternoon over here. It's like, hello?
I'm sitting here going in and out of meetings all afternoon. I'm the only person in the freaking office for the rest of the week. And I'm just like, oh, wait, LCS is kicking off. That's right. Give me a break.
Yeah, so no time to watch this personally. Overall, and I'm sure Squircle can do quite a bit of analysis on this. Just looking at some of the highlights, I think one of the crazy things for me is the Ziggs pick that came out in mid lane. Demonte, I think, ran Ziggs 2 or 3 of the games there. Not the greatest of stat lines. He didn't really put up much in terms of stats, but just the fact that they ran Ziggs into this TSM, I don't want to say it's a bad mouth because Ziggs is starting to work its way back into meta. I'm sure we're going to see G2 play it over in LEC as well with either Caps or Perks picking it up. But it's one of those picks that a lot of people look at as trolly here and there. Ziggs did make its way into this game, and they believe they pulled off 2 wins in those series as well. Just with the 3-0, they ended up winning all of these games in general, but the Ziggs pick with 2 of those wins as well.
I love the Ziggs pick. Ziggs was one of the first champions I ever played in League of Legends. I thought it was fantastic. I think it's spicy. I love it. And I love the fact that he's making a comeback. He's a very unique character. I love it. People think it's very basic. But last time I checked, most of his abilities are skill shots. So, it's not like a straight line where you press it and it automatically hits on to a champion. So I like the Ziggs pick. It was smart.
No, absolutely. And Squircle also brings up a great point in chat, which I did not know. Last time Ziggs won in the LCS was summer 2016.
Damn.
That's crazy. Ziggs actually had quite a few wins in the LEC just last split. So I guess not too much play, or at least successful play over here in NA. One of the big storylines, though, in general, John, is the way the AD carries played against each other. Doublelift, the legendary AD carry of Doublelift, he did not look great in this series. In game 1, he ended up playing Caitlyn up against a Ashe for FBI. Doublelift went 0-3-5. Over in game 2, it wasn't too much better, to be completely honest. The stat line in game 2 was 1-3-2. And then over in game 3 to wrap up the series, everything's on the line. Legendary AD carry of Doublelift, who's carried CLG, who's carried TSM in the past, who's carried Team Liquid. Back against the wall, pulls out the Ashe, 1-2-5. Really a terrible series overall for Doublelift. I think some of this can be credited to I'm going to say the bot lane of Golden Guardians. They've ended up having a great performance so far as the split has gone on. They've continued to improve as young players, continue to get that really not only their mentality, but their synergy as well as a team, and that synergy with junglers too. They've been playing really well with the jungler. They've been able to get closer down there and making an impact. So overall, I don't think it can be attributed to one player, but shutting down Doublelift is something that they have been able to do in this full series, and they did it game to game to game. Again, I think Doublelift has, I don't want to say he's over his performance hump. I think he'll still have great games here and there. I think a lot of the talk has not really shown up this split. He's able to talk a great game, but again, the bark is bigger than the bite when it comes down to Doublelift this split. So I'm not super surprised by this, but at the same point, to see a young bot lane come against a veteran like Doublelift and really dumpster him in 3 back-to-back games is giant for confidence on Golden Guardians too. Anything else you want to touch on for the LCS, John? We have EG and FlyQuest. I believe they play tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow at 4 p.m., that lovely evening time where the rest of us are still working, at least for game 1 or 2.
No, not yet, but I did see that Sneaky, the legendary ADC of Cloud9, is looking to make an LCS comeback next year. He just doesn't know with what team. So there's a chance that another LCS vet will be coming back to the LCS, and probably not with Cloud9. So it's going to be interesting to see if Sneaky does decide to make that comeback and put his cosplay career on slight hiatus. We know he's not going to do that. He's still going to be cosplaying throughout the entire time. It's part of the deal. So it'll be interesting to see what Sneaky does as well going forward too.
I'm going to call it now. I don't think his return is very valiant. I don't think he does a good job. Wow. I think he's a good player. Wow. When you look at a lot of these players who've returned in recent years, Freeze over in the LEC at one point was jumping around teams. You look at Vardags at one point made a return. You look at Forgiven, God-given over there in LEC. Goes over, he gets pulled out to do military service with Greece. He comes back, everyone's hyped. Forgiven is back, this giant, amazing player. His Caitlyn traps are next level, and he gets dumpstered on Schalke. Absolutely dumpstered. He ends up getting removed from the roster, partially his own doing, partially Schalke's doing, but he never returned either. Giant legendary player, bigger name than Sneaky. And now Sneaky's coming back after he was already having some issues with motivation, after he was already underperforming on Cloud9. They didn't necessarily say he had to leave, but they said, like, look, dude, your job is not secure. We're going to have different people compete for the job. And then they brought in Sven, and then Sven ended up winning the job, even though there was kind of some back and forth going on there. But I mean, overall, Sneaky's talented, don't get me wrong. His cosplay is a whole nother level, but his LCS mechanics are very talented as well. I think taking a year off, even if you're playing here and there as a streamer, to not be in that competitive environment and then try to make your way back is going to be even more challenging than the challenge you already had on the team.
No, I completely agree. It's going to be tough for him. I think, personally, I think he should focus more on the content creation and continuing his journey with cosplay. He's making a killing on his Patreon for that. He is way too good at cosplay. I remember the first time he released his cosplay pictures, I was like, wait, that's not Sneaky. I'm like, oh my God, that's Sneaky. Like, that's just, it's absurd how good his cosplay is. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a Valiant return as much as I would love to see him make a Valiant return. I mean, it's kind of like how we've seen Meteos over the past couple of years, just kind of not really fizzle out, but just his play style is not meta anymore. It's not viable in the game at the moment, and that's why he tends to struggle a little bit for the past couple of years, bouncing around from team to team. But
even with Meteos, I don't think he ever stopped playing, did he? Wasn't he on academy teams?
He was, but there were times where he wasn't even in the starting lineup on academy teams. I mean, there are times where like he just really struggled, and he may not have taken a full year off, but he definitely hasn't been with organizations for a full year in a long time.
I'll take it. We'll see if Sneaky can sneak his way up on LCS competition, but we won't find out about that until after Worlds. John, before we wrap up the show, one last thing. We have EG and FlyQuest. I think we already made predictions on this, but just to rehash for the chat here and for our podcast listeners, EG up against FlyQuest tomorrow, August 14th, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Who are you taking to win it and how many games?
I think last week I took EG 3-1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to change my choice. If I believe that's what I took was EG 3-1.
I don't remember either, but I'm going to go FlyQuest 3-1, actually. I just like FlyQuest. I think the synergy is there while they falter here and there. I think when it comes down, I think it's just the jungle matchup for me, in all honesty. Like, you can argue different things mid lane here and there, Golden Glue versus Power of Evil. Obviously, Jizuke could get subbed in as well in this EG roster, but for me, the jungle. Santorin is one of those supportive jungle players. He is very much like a Broxa, very much like these junglers that are very good at getting their laners ahead. I think Santorin's going to do a really good job up against Svenskeren. If EG does win, it's going to be from that jungle matchup. It'll be Svenskeren coming out, showing Santorin that he can also be supportive, showing Santorin that he can make big impacts in the lanes as well. But just on paper, I think FlyQuest 3-1. I think that does it, buddy. We've got a little over, but hey, we had hot topics today. We had to take a bite out of Apple. We had that good times with Epic Games, our little boxing match between big tech companies, and it really overpowered today's news.
All right, Nation. That was a good one. That will do it for this edition of Level Up Live. But before you go, head on over to patreon.com/OTN. Consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you will get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch at OTN Media. Again, big shout out to all of our subs and followers during this episode. We do appreciate the support. And also, if you do listen to the show on the podcast feed, make sure you leave us a review, as the podcast is now available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We would love to hear from all of our listeners. In fact, we love to hear from our community so much. We have different ways for you to interact with us here on the show. Joey, where else can Level Up Nation go to interact with us?
Level Up Nation, follow the podcast on Twitter at Level Up Live. That is LvL Live. In addition to that, you can follow the network OTN on Twitter and Facebook at OTN Media, as well as on Instagram at OTN_media. Last but not least, hit us up with a follow on Twitch if you don't already. We stream regularly Monday and Thursday for this show, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/OTN Media.
All right, make sure you tune in this upcoming Monday. That is August the 17th, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears a favor, slap that sub or follow button so you know when the next episode of Level Up Live is ready for your viewing pleasures. We'll catch you all next Monday, and remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online, and as always, level up.